The levelling up scheme. 90% of promised schemes are nowhere near completion. We're going to read into this more from Byline Times, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from Byline Times with the headline of Levelling Up. 9% of promised schemes are nowhere near completion. Rishi Sunak and Boris Johnson promise to level up the country and are going nowhere fast, according to a damning new report by MPs. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. Are you surprised? Not really, no. Did you expect it to be 90% of nowhere near completion? Oof. I mean, there's lies and then there's big fat lies, and wow. I mean, it's so infuriating when politicians say one thing and then they don't they speak with one thing, but when it comes to action, it's a different matter. And it's not just Conservatives, it's Labour as well. Let's make no two bones about this. Hell, even the Lib Dems, you might as well just throw them in the pot here in the UK for certain. If you're even mad enough, if you want to throw the SNP in, but I think the SNP have done a pretty decent job in Scotland under circumstances that they are in, but that's a entirely different matter. But we're talking about the Conservatives here in particular in the last 14 years in government, where they've always talked about levelling up and building up Britain, building the North, and all that kind of stuff is what's always been wanting to do. You hear this term levelling up all the time. You've always heard it piece after piece of newspaper and right wing and whatnot, and politicians talking about how they're going to level up the country and whatnot. And we're now into 2024. It's now mid-March, and do we feel anywhere like the country has leveled up? No. In fact, I think the country has been leveled down in that terms, if I'm absolutely honest. I don't think I feel that in any way, shape or form. Do you feel when you go out, if you walk among your high street, wherever you're going to your shops or supermarkets, do you look around your area and do you feel that there has been a levelling up from the Conservatives? No. And understandably, obviously, when Labour are in power, or if you've had a Labour council, do you feel that they have done enough to level up in your area? No. There's definitely a need and a want for something different. People don't want to vote between Tories and Labour. People want an alternative. Hence why there's a massive volume of people looking at reform. That's why people are looking at the Greens. Even though people are looking to tactically vote at the general election, the vast majority, well, I'd say most people listening to this were planning to tactically vote the Conservatives out because they're down with them for 14 years. Many people don't trust Labour. I don't trust Labour in any way, shape or form either. If it was up to me, if I could choose which party would be next in government, I would choose the Green Party. I generally would, because I believe in their policies and what they're doing. But for some people here, they might think it's reform. Some people obviously still believe in Labour, or some are even believe in Lib Dems. Everybody has their difference of opinions, but I don't feel levelled up, and I don't think anybody else does either. And this report, obviously by MPs, is just telling us what we already know, to be fair. But let's read into it, guys. So 90% of levelling up projects that were promised by Rishi Sunak and the former Prime Minister Boris Jonson are still years away from completion, a parliamentary report has revealed. A report by the Commons Public Accounts Committee found that only £1.24 billion will be spent on the projects by the end of this month out of £10.47 billion programme originally promised by Johnson's government to improve dilapidated town high streets and rundown areas of the country. Excuse me. This month was supposed to be the completion of the first round of levelling up grants, which councils have been put in bids under the scheme, but the report reveals the deadlines had to be extended for at least a year because so few had been finished. The report reveals that out of 71 so-called shovel-ready projects due to be completed this month, only 11 have been finished, and the remaining 60 will not be completed until next year, if not later. So obviously the term kicking the can down the road comes to mind when you think about this. He also says that only £3.7 billion out of the £10.7 billion had been allocated to councils by the ministry because the bidding procedure has been so complex and many councils have wasted council taxpayer money on projects which stood no chance of being accepted by ministers. So yeah, as people have pointed out in the comments with regards to the Birmingham City Council being bankrupt, they said a lot of money was wasted by Labour it's been run by a Labour council, and that money has always been wasted within Birmingham, according to people in the comments. Whether it's true or not is one thing, but this is what some of you guys in the comments have said. So there has that, and like I said in that video, there's no question that councils haven't been managing their budgets very well, but we have to remember at the same time we've also had austerity as well imposed on them. So it's really important to remember that as well. So it's very important to understand that it's both. That if you're going to blame Labour, you can't not ignore the 14 years of austerity that has been imposed by the Conservative either, and you have to accept that that has played a factor in what's happening to councils and what's happening across the high streets that you walk upon now. That's not a Labour thing, the austerity, that's a Conservative thing and a Conservative thing alone. And it's very important to make that point. Ministers have always ruled, sorry, I'm losing my words today. Ministers changed the rules midway through the bidding for levelling up projects, so that councils were successful in a bidding in the first round were disqualified from bidding in the second. As a result, 55 councils wasted scarce council taxpayer money putting in bids that were ruled out. This is so insulting to put them in this. Why would this is so insulting. This is actually really, really insulting. If they knew they weren't going to get the projects, they should have been given back the money. Excuse me. They shouldn't have been given. They should be given back the money if they weren't going to be involved in any projects. Why would you take the money away from the councils when the councils are already struggling as it is? I'm just putting that out there. Dame Meg Hillier MP, Labour chair of the committee, said that the levels of delay that our report finds in one of government's flagship policy platforms is absolutely astonishing. The vast majority of levelling up projects that were successful in the early rounds of funding have now been delivered late, with further delays likely baked in. The Department for Levelling Up Housing and Communities, the DLUHC, appears to have been blinded by optimism in funding projects that were clearly anything but shovel-ready, at the expense of projects that could have made a real difference. We are further concerned and surprised, given the generational ambition of this agenda, where there appears to be no plan to evaluate success in the long term. The ministry tried to claim to the National Audit Office that the majority of the programmes was underway, but when MPs questioned civil servants from the department, it was revealed that underway only meant that construction was at the design stage or required planning permission. Both the Local Government Association, which represents local councils, and the South East Council, which represents local authorities in London and the South East, were highly critical of the bidding process to get the money. South East Council described the process as a whole system of beauty contesting bidding, which is bad government. Levelling up funding further contributes to a begging bowl culture through a wasteful, inefficient, bureaucratic, over-centralised, unpredictable, short-termist, demoralising, time-consuming and frustrating way of allocating money to councils. In the South East, only 4 councils got any money. They were Gosport, Graveston, Thames Valley and the Isle of Wight. A bidding war. That's all it was. A bidding war for councils to get it. And the vast majority who bidded and they ended up losing money in the end anyway. What was the point? What is the point for them? So, some projects. Now, I will say that there have been in some areas, there have been some successful projects, but nowhere near the amount that needs to be done across the UK, in my opinion. You know, this whole levelling up thing, it has worked in my small pockets, but not on the scale that I would say that British public as a whole wanted. It's just not been good enough. Not been good enough, and once again, they're going to kick the can down the road and let it be Labour's problem because they know they're not going to be in government anyway. But how Labour are going to pick it up and how they're going to distribute it is going to be another question for sure. But I'm pretty confident that those that those projects that are already, shall we say, maybe halfway, maybe further along from being completed, it's likely that the Labour government will continue to push to get those projects done at least. But what do you guys think of the whole levelling up agenda? Maybe some of you have seen some regeneration in your areas. Maybe there has been some changes and levelling up in your area, and perhaps that money has come to fruition in your area. Perhaps it's not been doom and gloom. Or maybe you're from an area where you've not seen any improvement in the last 14, 20 or even 30 plus years. Let me know your thoughts about the concept of levelling up. Have you seen that change in the comments section down below? If you found this video informative, please hit the like button, we greatly appreciate. Share this across social media so others are notified of this video, and subscribe because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further and financially support me in the work I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content there as well. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.